Hi guys, I'm really excited to be using the Paul Rubens watercolors today. It's been so long since I've done watercolor, maybe like over 10 years. I've been doing digital art for the last decade and haven't really touched traditional until recently. And so I did want to try out these watercolors. They used to be the main medium that I used, and so it's been a hot minute. We're gonna try out new things together. First off, the packaging is super nice. It came with this protective cloth and this really nice box. There are 56 colors in here. There's also a swatch flap that you can use to try out all the colors. I'm just gonna go directly instead of doing the swatches, so we'll see how that goes. The watercolors themselves are packaged really nicely in a way that protects them. There's a paper that's wrapped around each color. You have to peel it back before you use it. I kind of struggled taking these out. I'm not someone that finds satisfaction in unboxing things like this, so you can watch me struggle here. I will say though, this is a really secure packaging, so if you're traveling or you're bringing this around, this is something that will definitely secure your watercolors in place. The colors are so glossy, I'm super excited to try them, and they look really vibrant. I don't know what colors to expect yet, and since it's been so long since I've done watercolor, I'm gonna be a bit conservative and not use too much color. The paper that I'm using is textured on both sides. I wasn't sure which side to use, but I did end up using the more textured size. I think that one takes more water, but let me know which side you guys recommend using. I'm also using washi tape here, mostly to secure the paper down so it doesn't move around, but also to add a nice little border around so that I can untape it afterwards. This is some random washi tape that I got from a manufacturer that was just sending me their samples, so I can use it without having to feel like I'm sacrificing washi tape. I wasn't gonna use this anyway, so I think it's perfect for painting. I did sketch out my concept in my sketchbook. Here's the concept. It's two little sheaves sitting on a meadow and some stars are in the sky. I also want to wireframe it a little bit more and just sketch out how the stars are going to float in the sky because I still wasn't sure how I wanted those directionally to look on the composition. I'm someone who does a lot of sketching beforehand, so it's a bit messy here, but it just helps for me to see the whole vision. The marker I'm using here is Ohuhu, nothing special, just to get the idea down. And first I want to sketch out the concept on the watercolor paper first, so I'm using this pencil just to lightly sketch it out. I do think because watercolor is not so opaque, it is nice to have really light lines, so I don't go too dark with my pencil marks, and I try to make it light so that I can erase it later on. Or even when I'm painting on top, I know that the pencil marks will still show. Something I recommend is sharpening the pencil first. I forgot to do that, so it was a little dull here, but I made it work, and I think I was just being lazy and not looking for a pencil sharpener. My favorite thing recently to draw is these two little Shibas just hanging out. So they're gonna be hanging out here, just checking out the skies. So for this part, I realized that the composition was much bigger than I had originally sketched out. So I used more washi tape to make the composition a bit smaller. And then I did finish up the line work using pencil, and afterwards, it's time to paint. I don't use too much water just because I think I'm a bit conservative about that. So you can see here already the yellow is super vibrant. Not using too much water is a great way to get a really potent version of the color. And with any extra water that's left over on the canvas, I will go over it with other colors, and you can see that they mix really well here. Growing up, I did get questions like, how do you control the water? How do you know how much or how little to use water for each paint colors or on the paper? And my recommendation would be to not use that much water. Maybe start with like a little bit of water and see how strong the color is. If you want less of the color, then definitely use more water so you can water it down. Another technique I try is that I put some water onto the pigment itself, and then I dab it a little bit on a tray that's next to the paint. So you can use like a palette, or you can even use the tray that this Paul Rubens case comes in. And this is an area where you can mix the colors, you can see how vibrant they are, you can also get rid of pigment or you can add more water, and this is another way that you control the colors. Personally, I feel like water is so fickle at times. Like, I might add more water in these areas and then I'll get less colors, or I'll add even more pigment and it'll be really dark, and it's not something that I expect. But at the same time, I'm not mad about it. I feel like traditional art is very much experimental, so I'm cool with just going with the flow and seeing what happens. Also, is anyone still playing Genshin? I was letting the story run while I was painting so that I could just collect Primo gems when the story would finish. The one thing I do wish that I had before I started this project was cement rubber, and the rubber allows you to paint around areas without having to worry about crossing over certain lines. I didn't have rubber at this time, so I was just painting around like these flowers that I was drawing, and yeah, just making sure that I don't cross any lines. But you can be much more precise if you get the cement rubber. White was really nice to mix in with the other pigments. I felt like the white here did it justice into what I was trying to make. The colors didn't have pink, so I started mixing red with white. The darker pigments are really dark, but they're super vibrant and I really like that. This purple and the blue that was in the color palettes were really nice, and I used it to mostly mix all of the colors within the sky. This is the rubber cement that I was talking about. I recommend the Elmer's. There's a lot of good reviews for it, and this is what I used to use when I was in high school. I actually ran to the art store to get these because I also needed more paintbrushes. It's been so long since I painted, so I didn't have any of the tools that I wanted, like smaller brushes. So I ended up just getting like these cheap brushes from Joann's and wanted to use them to touch up any small details that I had. The other thing to keep in mind when you're doing watercolor is the more you add on, the darker your image will be. So I usually start out with lighter colors before I get into the dark areas, but if I want to keep adding dark, then you can keep doing that. And you don't need dark colors to add more dark areas. Just keep adding more pigments on top, and then everything will overlay itself. Details like the flowers are probably one of my favorite parts about painting, because I do like line art and I do like filling up the details so that you can see the final picture. After painting, this is probably one of the most satisfying parts, is peeling off the washi tape. I did use the edges to test all the paint, which is what you see on the bottom, and that is the part that I usually just cut off so that I can frame and actually like border the composition. I'll probably save these pieces of paper for later if I do another painting so that I can have them for sample paper to basically just like do more swatches. And this is the final painting. I'm really happy with how it turned out, especially for someone who hasn't painted in like over 10 years. And also I didn't have any cement rubber, so I'm really proud of myself for going around all the lines and not overlapping anything. I'm debating if I want this to be a February Patreon reward, or maybe I'll redraw it now that I have the cement rubber. There's also smaller details that I went back in to fix using paint markers, so that is also what I did for this little fish that's in the sky. And that's a wrap. I will probably post this on Instagram now that this video is up so you guys can see the final illustration, and I hope you like this video. I highly recommend the Paul Rubens. I really loved how vibrant all the colors were. It was super easy to use. I love the box and how it also doubles as a palette that you can use to mix colors. Let me know if you guys want me to paint anything else, or if you have recommendations to use watercolor, since I still am pretty new at this. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and thank you so much. Bye!